São Paulo, October 31st, 1996. A routine TAM Airlines flight turned into one of the biggest tragedies in Brazilian aviation. That day, the city witnessed an event that would forever mark the history of aviation and the lives of many families. With its imposing skyscrapers and bustling streets, São Paulo is the beating heart of Brazil, a metropolis that never sleeps. At Congonhas Airport, one of the busiest centers in the country, the routine went on like any other day. But for the 96 passengers on board flight TAM 402, this day would be different. In just a few minutes, their lives would change forever.
But first, let's learn a little about the history of TAM Airlines.
TAM Airlines was founded in 1961 as Taxi Aéreo Marília by a group of pilots from Marília, in the interior of São Paulo, including Rolim Adolfo Amaro, who would later become the main name associated with the company. The company began operations with small planes to transport cargo and passengers on regional routes. Rolim Amaro, founder and president of TAM Linhas Aéreas, tragically passed away in a helicopter accident on July 8, 2001. Congonhas Airport, located in the heart of São Paulo, is one of the busiest airports in Brazil. Situated in a densely populated area, it serves as an important hub for domestic flights, connecting the metropolis of São Paulo to various destinations across the country. The aircraft involved was a Fokker 100 with the registration PTMRK. The aircraft made its first flight on February 8, 1993 and was acquired second-hand by TAM Transportes Aéreos Regionais in April 1995. It had accumulated more than 8,000 flying hours. It wore a special promotional blue livery on its fuselage with the inscription, Number 1, in reference to TAM being awarded Regional Airline of the Year. The plane was initially scheduled to fly to Brasilia but was redirected to Rio de Janeiro for logistical reasons. The previous crew reported issues with the auto throttle, but the pilots found no anomalies during pre-takeoff checks. While taxiing, an alarm sounded, which the pilots attributed to the deactivated auto throttle, but it was actually due to problems with the thrust reverser. But even before reaching the runway threshold, during taxiing, the Level 2 alarm sounded in the cockpit, but stopped shortly after, and did not attract the crew's attention. Still below 80 knots, an alarm sounds in the cockpit, indicating that one autothrottle channel became inoperative. Shortly thereafter, another alarm sounds as well, indicating that the other channel also became inoperative. With both engines at takeoff power, the plane continues accelerating and exceeds 80 knots, or 148 kilometers per hour, at a speed of 131 knots, equivalent to 242 kilometers per hour, with the nose pitched up at a 10-degree angle. At that exact moment, a noise is felt and heard in the cockpit, and the throttle lever for engine 2 is violently brought to idle condition, causing an immediate loss of power in the right engine. Captain Martins manages to move the throttle lever back to the acceleration position again, but only because the reverse thrust buckets closed momentarily. The plane's altitude is only 39 meters. With the loss of power in the right engine, and the reverse thrust buckets open, as if braking the plane only on the right side, the plane begins to veer to the right. The event happened so quickly that they didn't even retract the landing gear. The speed at which the loss of lift occurs on the wings, with the acceleration of the right engine and the reverse thrust buckets open, the bank angle of Mike Romeo Kilo is already 39 degrees. With the right wing pointing towards the sun, At 8 hours, 26 minutes, and 56 seconds, the GPWS alarm sounds with the terrain information. Don't sink, and after the collision, the plane crashed on Luis Orsini de Castro Street in the Jabaquara neighborhood. However, before it crashed, the wing of the plane hit a two-story building, and parts of the fuselage struck about 10 houses. With the impact, the fuel spread across the street, creating a wave of destruction and a river of fire down the street due to the fuel. 99 people, on board and 3 on the ground, lost their lives in the accident. The newspapers showed shocking scenes of charred bodies being lined up on the sidewalks with black plastic bags. This image shows journalist Jorge Tadeo Silva next to one of the aircraft's landing gears that fell into his parents' bedroom. The Center for Investigation and Prevention of Aeronautical Accidents, CENIPA, which is an organization similar to the American NTSB. In its investigation, it concluded that, when the aircraft took off from the runway on the accident flight with both engines at maximum power, a faulty switch, together with a possible short circuit, caused the thrust reverser on the right engine to activate. His device is called Weight on Wheels and is integrated into several aircraft systems, including the release of the thrust reverser clamshell doors. The weight on wheels sensors detect if the weight of the aircraft is on the wheels of the main landing gear. They function as switches that change state when the aircraft is on the ground, with weight on the wheels, and in the air, without weight on the wheels. When the aircraft is on the ground, the sensor detects the weight and releases the thrust reverser clamshell doors as well as other braking systems. Due to this sensor issue, the security system automatically decelerated the engine with the faulty thrust reverser. There was no alarm or other indication in the cockpit to indicate that a thrust reverser had been accidentally activated. The crew had no way of knowing what the real problem was. The co-pilot, seeing the right engine throttle lever move automatically to the idle position, thought that the lever had slipped back due to a problem with the auto throttle system and pushed it back to the maximum power position alongside the left engine throttle lever. Once again, the automatic safety system closed the right engine throttle, and the captain, who was conducting the takeoff, requested that the auto throttle system be turned off. After turning off the system, the co-pilot once again pushed the right engine throttle lever fully forward and held it there firmly. The cable of the safety system, responsible for pulling the throttle lever to the idle position, could no longer withstand the physical tension of being pulled in one direction by the actuator, while the co-pilot forced it in the other direction, pushing the throttle lever to maximum power. Soon, the cable snapped at a maintenance connection. With the throttle lever no longer restrained by the safety system, the co-pilot continued to keep the right throttle fully open. The combination of the right engine at full reverse thrust and the left engine still at normal takeoff thrust caused the aircraft to roll violently to the right and descend to the ground. The Fokker 100 was equipped with a reverse thrust indicator system and the measures that should be taken. However, this device was inhibited from a speed of 80 knots, reached during the takeoff roll, only resuming its function after the jet exceeded 1,000 feet of altitude, which had not yet happened. This was based on a modern aviation philosophy, according to which pilots should not take any action between these 2 points, when the planes decide on their own what to do. The philosophy had its logic, in the specific case of this accident, because if the pilots did not struggle with the throttles and the landing gear and the flaps were retracted, even if engine number 2 remained in idle, engine number 1 would provide the necessary power for the plane to climb to a safe altitude, circle the airport, and make an emergency landing. Recommendations were issued to Fokker to modify the electrical system of the reverse thrust system to meet airworthiness requirements and to review the feedback cable, and to TAM to update the logbook to improve the recording of malfunctions, develop a program aimed at listing all basic failure situations, place greater emphasis on simulator training regarding reverse thrust deployment during various flight phases, and emphasize the importance of taking no action below 400 feet. The last Fokker 100 left TAM's fleet in 2008, marking the end of an era for this model in the airline, being replaced by the modern Airbus A320, a model that crashed in Congonhas 11 years later, coincidentally for the same reasons, and will be the subject of a future video.
0 graus. Vocês nós, após decolagem, 198, Marília 402.
02, yeah. Takeoff, green. Aviation e manual. Good check.
2, São Paulo, Pantanal 101, no ponto de espera da 17, direita, pronto. Manter ponto de espera, Pantanal 101. Marília 471, liga alinhar e decolar, vento espera 60 graus, com 6 nós, após decolar 191, Marília 471. 471.
Descida lá em cima, autotroca. Puxa aqui. Na hora. Vai vir lá em cima, aqui também. Na hora, na hora. Ai, meu Deus.
Don't think.